Thank you. Good afternoon, CPAC. What a treat to be here in Illinois, and delighted to see all of you out there in the private sector are doing just fine. It's certainly good to be in Illinois. I spent a year in Chicago. I was in the private sector myself, and you know, this state is the #1 most popular getaway spot for Wisconsin state senators. You know, they spend a lot of time here. And Illinois is known for a lot of things: the home of Reagan, the home of Lincoln, and the home of Obama. 2 out of 3 is not bad, don't you think? Well, listen, I bring you greetings from the Commonwealth of Virginia, the most business-friendly state in America, the cradle of democracy, where 405 years ago, the ship landed at Jamestown and gave birth to the greatest country on earth, the United States of America. We're proud of that in Virginia. You know, we understand a little bit about freedom in Virginia. I hope that's why you're here. This election cycle, and what we're going to be talking about a lot the next 5 months, is fighting for freedom in this country. This is an election about what kind of America do you want to have for your kids and your grandkids. Do you want to have an America that is a government where we guarantee entitlements? Or do you want to have a government that Jefferson and Henry and Washington and Reagan believed in, and that is a America where if you use your God-given talents and pursue the American dream, that you can be anything you want to be. It's a nation of opportunity. That's what this election is all about, is what is the future for the United States of America. I can tell you a little bit. In Virginia, we understand that fight for freedom. Jefferson, the second governor of Virginia, by the way, I'm the 71st, there are a few in between. Jefferson, writing in the Declaration of Independence, believed in those principles of freedom, and we believe in that still today in Virginia. We have 830,000 veterans, more than most states. I spent 21 years in the Army. My daughter was a platoon leader in Iraq. Our people in Virginia understand the fight for freedom. So there's a lot at stake, and that's why you're here. I hope in these next 5 months are going to be the busiest 5 months of your activist lives, because we got a lot at stake. In Virginia, we've taken that seriously. When I became governor, we had a $6.3 billion budget deficit. My predecessor, Tim Kaine, running for Senate now, had an idea of raising taxes $2 billion. We immediately killed that income tax increase. We cut spending. We reformed government and balanced the budget without raising taxes. And now the last 2 years, we've had $1 billion in surpluses in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Those fiscal conservative principles actually work. And we don't believe that government's responsible for creating jobs. It's you. It's the entrepreneur. It's the risk taker. It's the person in the capitalist that believes in free enterprise. And so we encourage the private sector. We think success is a good thing, unlike some people in the White House today. And so we've got unemployment now down from 7.4 to 5.6%, the lowest in 3 years, the lowest in the Southeast. People are back to work and participating in the American dream in Virginia. We think that's a great thing. But more than that, this year, working with our Republican legislators, we've been able to reform our pension system, cutting nearly $10 billion out of our unfunded liabilities, major new education reforms with charter schools, merit pay, ending social promotion so young people will read before they leave 3rd grade. We've got to make sure everybody's got access to the American dream, regardless of where they live, what their zip code is, or what their mom and dad are doing. They've got to be able to have access to that great dream. But that's what governors, I think, are doing all over this country. I'm really honored this year to be the chairman of the Republican Governors Association. And I've got a very shy vice chairman, Chris Christie, who I was just with. I think he was here a little earlier speaking to you, and my friend Bobby Jindal, who was with me in Virginia this morning. We got some great governors, and I'll talk about a couple of those. But this is what's going on. While President Obama's jacked up your debt, your national debt, $5 trillion during his presidency, mortgaging your kids and your grandkids' future, Republican governors over the last 2 years have actually cut $65 billion in deficit out of their budgets. That's the difference between Republican governors and this White House. It's a sea change. Because we understand, you know what, it's your money. It's not the government's money. You send it to us. We're stewards. We have to spend it right. And we understand that it's business and free enterprise and entrepreneurs that are the key to American prosperity and success. Listen to these numbers. 7 out of the 10 states with the lowest unemployment rates, Republican governors. 11 out of the top 15 states that have been named by CNBC as the most business-friendly state in America, Republican governors. There's something different going on with leaders like Rick Scott and Rick Snyder and Chris Christie and John Kasich, who I think you heard from earlier, and Susana Martinez and Brian Sandoval and Rick Perry. I mean, these are people that get it. Many of them have lived the American dream, so they're trying to implement the American dream for their citizens, and I think that's a good thing. And there's no better example than what governors are doing in this country than my friend Scott Walker and what he did Tuesday in the state of Wisconsin. We knew this was going to be a critical race, not just for the great people of Wisconsin, but also for the United States of America. The Republican Governors Association invested $9.5 million in that race because we wanted to make sure we got everything we could on the table for Scott to win. And here's the lessons of Wisconsin. I know you've been talking about it a lot today. And it's a couple things. One, a politician that says what they're going to do and then gets into office and actually does it, and then has the courage to look their voters and their citizens in the eye and say, we cannot afford to continue to do things the same way. We've got to reduce spending and limit government. And if you do that, guess what? Good things will happen. 30,000 more jobs in Wisconsin, first cut in property taxes in a decade, more people experiencing the American dream, a balanced budget without raising taxes, cutting $3.6 billion out of the deficit. That's the Scott Walker record, and the people of Wisconsin rewarded him for his courage and the results he got. That's a good thing. Results-oriented conservatism is what we need right now in America. And so, thank you for what you did to help Scott Walker win. But you're seeing that again from governors around the country, and I think that's a good thing, because that's the kind of leadership we need. Now, contrast that with what's happening in the White House right now. Remember that hope and change thing? Well, that vision of hope and change has turned into a record of malaise and division and recession. And it's because there are not people surrounding the president, nor in his core philosophy does he understand the essence of the American dream. It's not government. It's you. It's free people living the American dream that's the heart and soul of the United States of America, has been since those ships landed at Jamestown 405 years ago. Look at the record. That's what this election is about, by the way. It is the vision of Mitt Romney versus the record of Barack Obama. And let's look at the record. 40 months of unemployment over 8.1%. That may be the best that Barack Obama can do, but that is not the best that America can do. And that's why we need a change in the presidency of the United States. That number that I gave you before, $15 trillion in debt, the budget the president proposed, by the way, it failed 535 to nothing. Even the Democrats realized it was a bad budget. That budget would have got us to $25 trillion in debt by the year 2021. This is not the way to govern the United States of America. Any CEO that governed like that would be fired by the board of directors. No coherent energy strategy. We're an energy rich state, great God-given natural resources, and guess what? Coal, natural gas, nuclear, offshore. This president, through the EPA, that's the Employment Prevention Agency of the federal government, continues to attack the energy industry. No wonder we can't have enough low-cost electricity in our country. So we need a change, and that change is Mitt Romney. This is a guy that is a man of faith, a man of character. I've gotten to know him a little bit. I'm honored to be a surrogate around the country for Mitt Romney because he's got a record. Yes, his dad was a governor, but he didn't get anything handed to him. He worked. He used his talents to do good things. And now he's going to be our candidate, and he's going to be our next president because this is his record. In Massachusetts, cut $3 billion out of a deficit in a blue state, and at the same time was able to create jobs, stand up for the right to life, stand up for the Second Amendment, and get things done in Massachusetts. He turned things around at the Olympics. That's a guy that knows how to manage things. And boy, do we need a turnaround in the fiscal health of the United States of America. He was able to create over 100,000 jobs in the private sector at his work at Bain Capital, seed capital, entrepreneurship. I mean, this is what we need. We need to raise up more entrepreneurs. 70% of all the jobs in America are created not by government, not even by big business, but by the small businessman, the entrepreneur, the risk taker, the people that have those dreams and plant those dreams and grow them to help other people and themselves. So this is critically important. I've just come to ask you to work as hard as you can these next 5 months. We're going to have a lot of money for the air war. And I can say this as a former Army, as a retired Army officer. The ground guys get the troops motivated and get the job done. They're the ones in the foxhole. They're the ones like you that'll be knocking on doors, being the surrogate speakers, talking to your neighbors about what needs to be done, and doing all the hard work of freedom that'll determine what kind of country we have, because it'll determine what kind of president we've got for the next 4 years. Let me close on this. I grew up, average middle-class kid up in Fairfax County, Northern Virginia. I grew up on about a mile from Mount Vernon, the home of George Washington. He's my favorite president, the great president, commander-in-chief, father of our country. And he reminds us constantly that this nation was born on its knees in 1777 at Valley Forge, fighting against tyranny, fighting against the most powerful army on earth. But yet, because of his strong leadership and character, the nation changed. That's the kind of position we find ourselves in. Washington said something really profound in his first inaugural address. He said, "The propitious smiles of heaven can never be expected to remain on a nation that disregards the eternal rules of order and right which heaven itself has ordained." And he's right. He expected that to be remembered, I think, throughout the ages. Character counts. Values matter. There are eternal truths about limited government and the rule of law and respecting constitutional liberties and the fact that it's the free people in a free society that ultimately determine success and not government. So remember those words when you're knocking on doors when it's 95 degrees, or whether you're handing out literature at the polls when it's 10 degrees, wherever you are, that this is worth fighting for. Freedom has never been free. That American flag, that red, stands for the blood of the men and women, the million of them or so that have died for freedom over the last century. If they can do it, certainly we can do this hard work to get a new President of the United States and restore liberty here in America. God bless you. Nice to be with you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.